Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope your day and your week are going well so far. We've got a new day, which of course means a new MLB Player Prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, make sure hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it means a lot to us. We got 7 picks for today's MLB slate, a solid slate that I'm pretty excited about. Pause the camera just to get a little bit of water, and of course I would spill it all over myself. Go figure. But 7 picks in today's slate, guys. But real quick, let's recap what happened last night. Now, unfortunately, I gave out 5 picks yesterday, but only 3 of them actually played. 2 of them, they weren't in the lineup last night. Kike Hernandez and Sean Bouchard, they weren't in the lineup last night, so that's unfortunate for us. But with 3 picks that we had, we went 2-1, so still not bad. I mean, we haven't had a bad day in a little while here. 2-1 day yesterday. Michael Conforto was a plus money play. I told you guys it was a risk. We're taking a chance there. It didn't pay off for us. He went 0 for. But Garrett Cooper and Aaron Judge both cashed, and those really were no doubters for both those. So 2-1 yesterday. We're now 24-10 since last Tuesday. So let's keep the good times rolling here, guys. Tons of picks to get to. Let's dive into today's video. Let's go ahead and jump right into the Outlier screen, guys. We are not playing games today. We are going right into it. Shout out to Outlier, the best sports betting tool on the market. There is a special link in our description below that gives you a 7-day free trial to check it out for yourself. If you watch my videos, you know what Outlier can do for you. If you haven't watched my videos, stick around. You're going to see a little bit of it in this video. I give you guys a little bit of information on how Outlier works, but there's so much more to it. Try it out for yourself. There's no risk involved. You do it for 7 days. You don't like it, you cancel it. No cost to you. Link in our description below for a 7-day free trial to check it out for yourself. All right, guys, our first of 7 props in today's slate. We're targeting the Cardinals-Astros game, 2:10 p.m. first pitch. We're going Alex Bregman here, over 1.5 total bases. We got a plus money play here against for plus 115 on FanDuel, plus 110 on DraftKings, plus 108 on Caesars, or plus 101 for Underdog. Of course, guys, always shop around and try to find the best odds available to you. Bregman in his last 10 games, 7 of his last 10 games, he cashed the over, averaging 3.2 total bases per game. He didn't catch it last night versus St. Louis, but he had cashed it in 5 consecutive games going into last night's showdown. Now, on the season, it hasn't been fantastic for Bregman. You see here only a 36% hit rate this season, but 1.58 total bases per game average. So he had a really rough start to the year, but of late, he has started to find his rhythm. He's starting to turn it around a little bit for us here. And going down below here to the splits, guys, I tell you guys the splits are always one of the most important things to look at when it comes to betting player props. And Alex Bregman's batting .229 this year, but versus right-handed pitchers at a pretty good sample size here at 167 plate appearances. He jumps to a .252 batting average, so he's hitting significantly better versus right-handed pitchers this year. A .267 BABIP, 199 ISO versus right-handed pitchers. His extra base hit percentage does drop slightly, but still 39.5% is pretty good. And you look at Mikolas, a 5.54 ERA on the year, but versus right-handed batters, that does increase to 6. His batting average does drop, but it's ever so slightly. It goes from 281 to 276, which is still very high. His slugging percentage, again, in the red, but still pretty much the same, around 480. And his extra base hit percentage allowed goes from 43 to 40.5. Either way, 40% versus 40%, it looks like a pretty solid matchup here for Bregman to get a couple bases, even on just 1 hit. And for plus money odds, guys, you really can't beat that. There's a good little risk there with the Bregman prop. Our second prop from today's slate, our second prop from this game, actually, we're going Ronel Blanco, over 5.5 strikeouts. We are getting this one for minus 125 on DraftKings, but it's available everywhere you see on Prize Picks, minus 119. Available for multiple of varying odds there across all those sports books. He's cashed in 6 of his last 10 games, including each of his last 2 starts. And of course, because we're still kind of early in the season, he's only had 10 starts this year. And you see here, average of 5.7 strikeouts per game, 6 of his last 10 games. He's cashed in 5 of his last 7, if you want to go a little more narrow with the data. So pretty good overall. And referring to the MLB dashboard, guys, if you don't know what this is the dashboard that Ev creates on his own. The founder guy of Boston Sports does a great job with this. He updates it daily with all this kind of data. It's a great tool to pair with Outlier. It gives a lot of the stuff that Outlier gives you, but it just goes a little bit deeper with the data. You guys can have access to this if you pay $2.99 a month and become a member of the Guy Boston Sports community. It's totally worth it. Along with this, you get access to a couple of other perks for becoming a member. But this is one of the big ones here, is having access to this dashboard, which, like I said, has every single game, data for every game, and it updates every single morning. So a pretty good thing here. And you look at Ronel Blanco this season, his strikeout rate 24.3%, which is in the green zone, which means he's in the higher up in the league. 25.2% at home, which is slightly higher, which is slightly better. Overall, pretty good. We go over here to the right side of the screen here with the Cardinals batting. Take a look at that. And you'll see here St. Louis, pretty good numbers, except strikeout percentage bottom half of the league, 22.3%, versus right-handed pitchers like Blanco, 23.8%, which is bottom 6. So a pretty solid matchup, but we're just talking strikeouts here. A pretty solid matchup for Ronel Blanco. 6 strikeouts. Again, he's done it each of the last 2 starts. And even when he misses, it's close. 5 strikeouts, 4. I think it's going to be close, but I do think it's a pretty solid bet here. For minus 125, can't really beat it. All right, guys, our third prop from today's slate, we're going Giants Diamondbacks, 3:40 p.m. first pitch. We're going Matt Chapman over 1.5 total bases. Now, this is a little bit higher, right? Against from minus 145 on DraftKings, FanDuel, and Caesars, minus 180 on Underdog. But you see here for Chapman, he's cashed in 5 of his last 10 games, including each of his last 3 games. Just a 38% hit rate on the season for Matt Chapman, but he is averaging 1.61 total bases per game average. You see in the middle there, kind of a rough stretch of games for Chapman, but of late he has rebounded a little bit. And if you look at the head-to-head data here, you'll see 5 straight cashes versus the Giants. 5 of his last 6 games versus the Diamondbacks, not the Giants. Plays for the Giants. 5 consecutive matchups versus Arizona. He has cashed the over, including both games in this series so far. All of these games, by the way, are taking place this season. He's averaging 2 total bases per game versus Arizona this year. Some decent splits here. Now, here's Matt Chapman's career numbers versus Jordan Montgomery. 15 plate appearances in 2018, just a 214 batting average. So not fantastic, but Montgomery's having kind of a down year, so that does help us a little bit here. You see Chapman this year, 242 batting average, but versus left-handed pitchers, that does increase to 364, a massive increase across the board. 55% extra base hit percentage versus left-handed pitchers. That's really good. These aren't just minor jumps, people. This is massive increase, and 60 plate appearances is a decent data size. His numbers significantly increased versus left-handed pitchers. And look at Jordan Montgomery here on the year. His numbers significantly decrease or increase in our favor, I should say. So far this year, 5.48 ERA. Versus right-handed batters, it increases to 5.91. Batting average allowed goes from 3.02 to 3.20. Slugging percentage, 4.80 to 5.24. Extra base hit percentage, which is already high at 42.6, increases to 44.7. Across the board, it's a great matchup. I know the head-to-head data isn't fantastic here, right? You see 214 batting average versus Montgomery since 2018, but Montgomery's having a bit of a down year here, and I do think Matt Chapman can take advantage of this matchup. It's minus 145 for a reason, guys. I really like this prop. All right, guys, next up, our 4th and 5th prop from today's video are coming from this Royals-Guardians game, 6:40 p.m. first pitch. Our first of 2 props from this game, we're going Salvador Perez of the Royals under 2.5 hits, runs, RBIs. We're going to get that for minus 120 on DraftKings. Also available on Prize Picks for minus 119 and Underdog for minus 120. And the data looks really good here. 9 of his last 10 games, including 5 in a row, he has cashed this under. If you stretch the data to the last 20 games, the picture is pretty much the same. A 70% hit rate over his last 20. That means 14 of his last 20 games he's cashed the under, averaging 1.85 HRRs per game. You see a couple big games in there for Salvador Perez, but for the most part, he's been cashing it pretty consistently. You see in 2024 so far, a 62% hit rate on this under. 37 out of 60 games he's cashed, averaging 2.23 HRRs per game. Again, a couple of big games there that skews the data a little bit in his favor, but of late, like you saw, 70% hit rate over his last 20, 90% hit rate over his last 10. And looking at the head-to-head data here for Perez, 8 of the last 9 times he's faced off with the Cleveland Guardians, he has cashed the under. The only time he didn't was July 24th of last season. He had 1 hit, 1 run, and 2 RBIs. He's averaging just 1.22 HRRs per game versus the Guardians dating back to June of last season. So far in this series last night, he had a hit, but no runs and no RBIs. Looking down below here at the splits, pretty good numbers here for Perez. 7 plate appearances versus Sandlin dating back to 2018. Just a 143 batting average against him, which is pretty good. Perez hitting 315 this year, which is really fantastic, and it's a slight increase to 317 versus right-handed pitches, but it's basically the same data across the board. You see a couple of slight increases for Perez. The moral of the story, Perez has been batting insanely good this year, but on the opposite side, Sandlin's been pitching very well. Smaller sample size, yes, but still decent enough. 2.77 ERA this year with a 1.26 batting average allowed. Versus right-handed batters, it actually gets better to a 2.02 ERA and just a 1.14 batting average allowed. Again, only 55 batters faced, so pretty small sample size, only a couple starts for Sandlin this year, but overall, I think it's a pretty solid spot here for a guy who's been cashing this under pretty consistently. And for the second prop of this game, our 5th prop of today's slate, the second prop from this game, we're going Hunter Renfroe here, under 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. We're going back-to-back unders here on the Royals side of things. This is a plus money play, our second plus money play of the day. Get it for plus 100 on DraftKings. It is available on Prize Picks Underdog, but is not a plus money play on those sports books. Now, the recent data for Renfroe is horrible. You see here just 2 of his last 10 games has he cashed the under, averaging 2.5 HRRs per game over the last 10 games. So he's been cashing the over pretty consistently of late here. But in 2024, a 58% hit rate overall. So although he's gotten a little hot of late, overall this year, a 58% hit rate on the under, averaging 1.46 HRRs per game. And if we scroll down below to the splits, you'll see overall not a great year for Renfroe. 179 batting average. It does increase slightly to 181 versus right-handed pitchers. But again, same data like last time. Look at Sandlin's numbers across the board. Smaller sample size, of course, yes, but overall the data looks really good. So you have a hitter who hasn't been hitting all that well this year against a pitcher who's been pitching pretty well. I think it's a pretty good matchup for plus money for a guy who's hitting it at a 58% hit rate. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take my chances with that one. All right, guys, our 6th prop from today's slate. We're switching gears now over to the Orioles-Blue Jays game, 7:07 p.m. first pitch. Yeah, this is a prop I've been using quite a bit this year. Justin Turner, under 1.5 HRRs. Getting it from minus 110 on DraftKings. Also available on BetMGM, Prize Picks, and on Underdog. And you see here, 8 of his last 10 games, he has cashed the under, including 4 straight. You stretch that out to the last 20 games, and it's still a really good picture. 90% hit rate, 18 of his last 20 games. He has cashed the under, averaging 0.65 HRRs per game. And in 2024 so far, a 67% hit rate on this under. 35 out of 52 games this year, he's cashed the under, averaging 1.44 HRRs per game. Justin Turner actually had a really solid start to the year with Toronto. You see in the beginning of the year, a lot of cashes on the over. But of late, over the last 20 games, it's been straight unders minus these 2 meetings with Detroit on May 23rd and this game versus Chicago on May 28th. And you look at the head-to-head matchup so far. Both times he's faced off with Baltimore this season, he's cashed the under both times. Scroll down below to the splits, and yeah, the picture paints itself. 212 batting average this year for Justin Turner. Versus right-handed pitchers, though, it does take a pretty nice dip to 176. And across the board, you see not fantastic data. And for Suarez side, 157 ERA, 197 batting average allowed. It decreases to 127 versus right-handed batters. The batting average allowed slightly increases to 200. It is a smaller sample size. You see only 82 batters faced versus right-handed batters, 136 batters faced overall. Bigger sample size than Sandlin, the last props we had, but still not the biggest sample size we've ever seen. But across the board, you see solid data. So a pretty solid matchup against a hitter who has been ice cold of late.